Howdy, howdy, fellas. Got a match, a first impression, early look, whatever you want to call it, at the Dido. This thing's for the what are those little guys? Pinatitas. Yeah, it's got good concealment, 8-7. Yeah, maneuverability on paper is fine, but I'll try to point out in the match like a little bit of wonkiness. I've gone with this Turwit Smagathon build. This is not a build that I've ever really used before. I don't have him fully leveled, so I don't have the full chain smoke, but honestly, for how I use it, that's good enough. Guns are fine. I went back and forth a little bit on whether to make this video yet or not. This is early impressions. I think I enjoyed this build the most on the Dido, but also I played a Frazier kind of full fire starting. The shells on this thing are super floaty, so I went with whatever that is, burning down XXL, the 2% fire chance in the first row, 3% fire chance. Debated speed or AP in the third row. I think I went with AP and then accuracy and fully packed. Because as you'll see in this match, one of the things that I actually really like about this ship is that reload boost is spicy AF. Like, that thing is nuts. This is the very first match that I played in it. Was it? Maybe should have played it in AI, but I was like, nah, whatever. Like, let's just go in. It's tier 5. Who cares? This ship is a little weird. It has some characteristics on it that are not necessarily... I was looking at these planes. Oh, that's weird perspective. It has some stats that aren't eminently obvious, and I think that's kind of fundamental to what this ship can actually do. And if you're aware of it, I think you can really take advantage of it in a way that I don't know if it's going to make this thing. You've got like California and Warspite and Hyuga and DeGrasse and like there's other things on the thing, but let's take a look at this as I'm like, you know what, let's just check out this AP on the Furtak. It's a 7 o'clock. Oh, what? My aim is, honestly, I was so surprised my aim got wonky. I should have kept AP here because I see the Rattlehead is right here. If I had known that this ship was capable of doing this, I might have gotten like a double strike, death strike right here because this AP is nuts. 8 kilometers, these are 130 millimeter guns. They're not fast, but there is something crazy spicy, like, oh gosh, about the AP. And again, it's something that I've been noticing in the Pizharsky that this, like, I think a lot of people are like, bigger is better. Go for the overmatch, go for the biggest guns you can. I don't think that that's wrong, but I also think that there's a really underappreciated aspect of the game where smaller guns with good penetration are actually shockingly good because they can go through, but they arm on anything, and they have a tendency to detonate, get full damage. And in this one, like, I am getting citadels really far out. Admittedly, that's a Furataka and an Omaha, like it's a Rattlehead, but it's an Omaha hull. Those are ships that are known for being relatively easy to citadel. I haven't played tier 4 and 5 a lot recently, so maybe I'm just misremembering how easy they are to citadel on any cruiser. But these are, what is it, 5.1 inch guns, 130 millimeters. I believe, let's see, that's like the Soviet destroyer caliber, I believe is what that is. And they're known for their pin. A little spicy, a little high velocity, high pin. These are slow shells, but they still keep or get, or however you want to look at it, really good penetration value. And honestly, it was kind of messing with my head. Like, you'll see later in the match, there's a point where I'm under leading the shells, and I think part of it is like subconsciously or even consciously, I'm like, these shells are like wrecking, hitting hard. And for me, that tends to be like, oh, it's a fast shell, like it's zipping in there. I under lead, so we'll cover that a little bit more when we get to it. the other aspect of this, penetration, watch me wreck this New Mexico. These are 130mm guns, they have 25mm of pen. I did go into training rooms and test that. It will penetrate the nose of a New Mexico. It will not penetrate the nose of a King George V, which is 26mm. So the HE will penetrate 25, which is a very common plating thickness at this tier. And that's one of the reasons that I may stick with this build, with this turret build. It doesn't have the best fire chance. I'm sure if you calculated the fire, that salvo is like everything went right to his right. Anyway, if you calculated the fires per minute, it's probably relatively low. That was one of the reasons I haven't loved the lower tier Pan Asian cruisers, is it just feel like for flamethrowers they don't feel like they're setting a lot of fires. This kind of has that same output level. I have the Rahmat. I haven't played it a lot, so I don't really have a great frame of reference. This is the same to my... if I understand correctly, the Rahmat is like a Dido class that was given to Asia, so it's like the same ship. Just in-game, that's Pan-Asian, this is British. And so this, like, what it was originally a British ship has actually been missing from the game. It's here now. Is my understanding. Sorry for anyone who is an actual naval history buff. I know a little bit, probably just enough to be dangerous, so sorry if I've said any of that correctly. Anyway, I have the Rahmat. I haven't played enough to give like a full head-to-head comparison. I'll leave that to someone else who has played through that line, or at least played the Rahmat more than I have. But the Dido got those crazy floaty shells, but again, I'm like the raw damage on the HE by being able to penetrate 25mm hulls, I think is really strong at tier 5. Oh, speaking of a Rahmat, there is one. And so even if the fire damage isn't as much as it might be, you're still going to set fires. It's 8%. It's not amazing, but it's not nothing. It's not destroyer level. It's got 10 guns. Yeah, see, I'm under leading there. These shells are slow. But the fact that it penetrates that 25mm, I think you're going to make up some of that lost fire damage with actual raw pen damage, and that's actually my preference. I prefer that, so... You know, I've played 6 or 7 matches. I've gotten super greedy in 2. I like YOLO'd in and kind of forgot I'm in a tier 5 cruiser. I've been playing a lot of higher tiers where the cruisers are generally tankier, and I've just out of practice down here at the lower tiers, and I paid for it. You know, probably my just desserts for my California video I just posted where I dev struck to Pensacola's. I mean, that's the life of a cruiser down here at lower tiers. The Dido is no different, but it does have those, what are the, I guess 5 to 7, no. Smoke generator started. 6. Is it 6 stock? Yeah, it's 6 stock because they're the destroyer smokes. That's what it is. And you can get 7 if you have Smagathon or fully packed. That's what it is. But yeah, I in spite of, or, you know, whatever, like my misplays that I've done in the games that I've played so far, I have enjoyed this ship. I have enjoyed this build. Oh, I don't know if it's been super evident yet, but another wonky thing about this ship, so it's got the great, surprising, shocking penetration on the guns, both HE and AP. It does a really weird thing when, or it has some weird characteristics about its mobility that I've noticed. It does have prop mod, which is one of the reasons that I actually wanted to run Turwit, because on the kind of more typical British light cruisers, you don't typically get prop mod. They take forever to stop. The like 10 seconds or so of smoke deployment that you get, you basically need to be already stopped to get it, to be able to stop in the smoke. That's just a hassle for me. I don't like it. I don't like to sit in the smoke anyway. I do like having a lot of little smokes. That is more my preference, because I like to move around. But not being able to just slam on the brakes, pop the smoke, and stop in the smoke, I don't like. I also find that it just leaves a teeny tiny little smoke screen. And you're just a magnet for torpedoes. Like they just flood the area with torpedoes and whatever. But so it does have prop mod, but if you watch, hopefully we'll see it a little bit later. It slows down a lot during a turn. You know, typically British cruisers, have a tendency to keep speed during the turns. British ships in general, the destroyers and cruisers, keep speed during a turn. Sometimes you'll even, depending on your speed, you may even speed up. This guy is like the opposite. It actually really slows down during a turn. I mean, like 10 knots or something. It's crazy how much it slows down. You can use that to your advantage to slow down even more quickly than someone might be expecting. But if you are trying to dodge and maneuver, like, yeah, look at this. I'm 23 knots in the turn, 22.9. That's really slow, and I'm at full throttle. I think that's quite slow, and definitely, especially compared to the other British cruisers. And so that's one of the things I was running into with this ship, is like going into it expecting similar reactions and characteristics to a lot of the other British ships that I've played, or similar. Yeah, but look at, like, if I was ready on this stuff, yeah, I'm not leading enough. I could have gotten way more citadels. I switched to the Legal. Yeah, I missed that last thing, and I was like, oh, he's gonna die. This guy's the more immediate threat. So I definitely misplayed this, but also partially just because, like, not being used to this ship. And I think that's going to be one of the things about this ship. If you go in and expect to play it exactly like you do any other cruiser, whack, like any other cruiser, even cruisers that on paper seem very similar, I think it may end up not even necessarily lacking, but just very surprising, because it has some weird characteristics. And so if you're looking at this one, and I would recommend it, I think all the ways that it's different are generally good and at least interesting. So like the slowing down during the turn, that's kind of bad, but it's also something that you can use to your advantage and take, do some stuff with if you're aware of it. So far I like this ship. I haven't fully settled on my build. That reload booster is amazing. But with a Fraser build, or at least the build that I tried, I didn't have amazing concealment, so I was actually having trouble getting in close to use that that reload boost to full effect. So I don't know. I like this idea, or I like this build in theory. The idea of this build, I'm not settled on it. 3 reload boosts would be great. That's also one of the reasons I kind of would recommend this ship, is I think you can kind of go a couple of different ways with it. And I think they're all going to be pretty effective. But it's also not one of those ships that's just going to go in and run every match. It doesn't have radar, the smokes are short, the shells are floating, the actual damage output can be consistent, but outside of the reload boost, it's not particularly high in a short term. Like, that reload is relatively long. But yeah, it's an interesting ship. It's the, what is it? It's the Repulse that's in the bundle. That's not my favorite ship. I know some people enjoy it. I think it is a little more accurate than the tech tree version, but in general, the tech tree version has a lot of benefits over it. Torpedoes, better nose armor. I'd be hard-pressed to recommend the Repulse over this one. And then especially this line of the little bundles does get the Irian, I think that's what it's called, at the end. That one's less interesting to me. Seems like a, also Kutuzov, but people said that about the Bozharsky, and that's one of my favorite ships in the game, so maybe we'll find something to love about that one. But the Dido, we lost that match, whatever, but we did almost 150,000 damage, and I think that illustrates some of the real possibilities of this ship.